Yeah, are we? Fantastic. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our conversation on top tips for preparing for the IELTS exam and how the British Council can help you in this preparation. My name is Imran Saifor. I'm the academic manager for the for adult courses at the British Council, and I've been teaching IELTS for more than a decade, and I'm joined here by a few colleagues here.
Hi everyone, this is Aisha Khan. I'm an experienced English teacher and have been working with the British Council for a couple of years. And then we have
Hello, I'm Raphael, and I've been teaching English at the British Council since 2011. And bulk of my teaching, I actually teach IELTS preparation courses. Yeah.
So I've been teaching. Thanks for joining, guys. More than a decade, and I'm joined here by a few colleagues here.
I'm fine. How are you?
hi everyone.
Can't complain given the circumstance.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So as I was saying, and to us and to the audience, we're here to talk about IELTS preparation. And when we say top tips, we don't mean shortcuts for shortcuts to that desired band score, because shortcuts don't really exist. We're here to talk about what are really the important factors when that you need to consider when you're preparing for the IELTS exam, and how we at the British Council help you achieve that on our courses, especially on our all new online program for IELTS preparation. It's called myClass IELTS, and it's a whole new way of preparing for the IELTS exam at the British Council. It's whole new because one, it gives complete control to the learner in terms of choosing the lessons that you'd like to engage with, and that allows you to focus on the areas that you think you need to prepare and you need help in, and also allows you to sort of choose the schedule, the frequency of the lessons, the teacher that you like the profile of, and so on. And it's all done online, and that means that you can do it from the safety of your home. And but we've chosen the course content very carefully, and we're confident that we maintain the same quality and same sort of lively engagement in our lessons. Okay, so this is what we'll be talking about. My first question is for Aisha. Aisha, you've been teaching myClass IELTS for some time. Can you share your experience on these lessons, and also the experience that the learners have had?
Well, the best thing about this course is that I get to stay at home and I teach. That's the first thing. And if I talk about my teaching experience, definitely it's a very, very different approach. Like, I'm getting so many students from different places all over Bangladesh, and that's a brilliant thing. Like, before, many students couldn't join because they couldn't come to Dhaka and do the classes, but now they have got this opportunity, and it's a fantastic thing basically. And if I talk about the experience of the learners, so they have given the feedback that that they can do the courses at their free time, and the time is very, very flexible for them. But what I personally believe is that the best thing about this course is the communicative approach that it has. Like, the students, they get to learn together, they can share their life experiences, they discuss with each other, they get to practice with each other, and they also give feedback to each other. So there is a lot of sharing and learning in that way, which is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and it's amazing that we've managed to do this, because it surprises me every day when because it's very easy to assume that you won't be able to achieve that level of engagement that you normally have in a British face-to-face classroom in an online environment. But we see it every day that it's happening, isn't it? We see that level of engagement.
It is actually, I would say the students are enthusiastic, definitely. I can't compare that the students were more enthusiastic in face-to-face class. Actually, they are the same here as well. So the kind of communication we had before, the collaboration is just the same.
Yeah, which is really great. I want to move to more specific areas of the IELTS exam, and namely the reading and the listening paper at this stage. Raphael, can you share how you're helping our students to prepare effectively for the reading and listening papers of the IELTS exam?
All right. So first of all, if you look at the IELTS exam itself, how it's designed, basically they want to test your ability to do well in everyday situation. So for example, if you want to apply to a university and go there and do your higher studies, obviously you need to be able to read, let's say, research papers and be able to understand what they're about. But it's quite easy for students to get into this trap of like preparing for the test and thinking, oh, how should I answer true, false, not given, or this type of questions. But if you look at what these questions are actually testing, which skill actually they test, and if you prepare for that and improve your proficiency and overall skills, I think that's what we do in our lessons, try to prepare our students and help them improve their skills.
Yeah. And I think you're talking about more holistic development, isn't it? Because it's and you use the word trap, and
Right.
I'd say exactly the same thing, isn't it? It's so easy to get caught in that trap of like almost trying to learn the exam itself, which you really can't. You've got to learn the skills and the language, and that the exam assesses. Very well said.
Exactly.
Thank you.
The improvement of skills, that's very important in order to answer all these questions. Yeah.
In that light, Aisha, I'd like to ask you about more sort of the productive two areas of the IELTS exam paper. Raphael was talking about the reading and listening. Tell me about the writing and speaking preparation. And also, I say that mainly because students have a lot of concerns around them preparing and the kind of feedback they receive on their writing and speaking. So tell me about the learning and the feedback that they receive on our courses.
Okay, so if I talk about speaking and writing, so we do provide the students with the band descriptors, which is the public version. So they get to see that for which, what they have to do or what they need to achieve this particular score. And then if we talk about our classes, then we focus on few things. For example, samples, then format, and we do have practice as well. So for our lessons are very, very specific. Like every lesson has got some objectives, and we focus on those in our lessons. So for example, if a lesson is basically on writing an introduction of an essay, so we focus on how to paraphrase the question and how to write the thesis statement, and if the question wants any opinion statement as well. So that's the focus of a particular class. Based on that focus, the students get to practice with each other and the producer writing. And we give feedback based on that if the student has learned what the introduction needs, what the students have done in a better way, and in what areas they have to work a bit more. So we provide feedback in that way. So definitely the feedback is very, very specific and focused and in alignment with the lesson objective.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like you were saying. It's very focused on the areas of learning. But also you had a similar theme when you were talking about this, didn't you? I mean, you were also talking about more holistic development, not only awareness of the exam features, but also development of the writing skills and knowledge of the language. Speaking of these, we've got a couple of questions from our audience. One of them happens to be about paraphrasing, by the way. Aisha, you were just saying paraphrasing. But before that, Raphael, can I ask you this question very quickly? Onik Hassan asked, what kind of materials should we read for getting good scores in writing?
Journal articles, I mean, they'll be great. So academic style of writing. And what I tell my students in my class as well, to get into the habit of reading. I mean, you can't just improve overnight. So this is very important. So I tell them, like, before you go to bed, maybe just every day read for 10 to 15 minutes and maybe try to learn one word per day. And that should be enough, I think. But yeah,
Yeah,
to prepare for the
and
IELTS,
it's
yes.
interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting that Onik actually asked such a wonderful question, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because too many people think that it's writing means writing. There's no scope for reading here, but we know, and quite clearly, Onik understands that. It starts with reading. The more experience we have with these texts, the more able we are to produce
And
similar
more
texts.
resources you get, isn't it? The more you read, more lexical resources you get,
Absolutely.
which
Yeah,
you
it
can
is
use in
such a
your writing.
fantastic question, Anik.
Exactly.
And thank you, Raphael, for that wonderful input. So moving on to paraphrasing, Aisha, you were talking
Sorry,
about
I think you're
paraphrasing.
breaking. I can't hear
Can you hear me
you.
now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Rubaya Chaudhary asked, "How can we make effective paraphrasing?" Is that a very important thing in the IELTS exam, Aisha?
Of course it is, because if you can't paraphrase, that means you are actually going to pick up words from the question. So that means it shows that we don't have enough, word bank. We don't have enough resources in our word bank. And if you keep on repeating words from the question, so definitely that's going to have an impact on our writing or like speaking as well. If I talk about how like we can make effective paraphrasing, I think in order to do that, we need to know a lot of words. Like if you know one word and if you don't really know what other words are associated with that, then it's going to be very difficult for you to paraphrase. So I would actually quote to what Rafael Bhai said, that it's important that you read. If you don't read, if you don't have enough, access or enough, what should I say, idea of different texts, it's difficult to figure out what word can have different meanings in different contexts. So that's really important.
Absolutely, yeah. And speaking of reading, I mean, I think good paraphrasing starts with good understanding of what you're paraphrasing, isn't it? Because you need
Yeah.
to understand the gist of what you're paraphrasing so that the same gist comes through in your own writing. So I think, Rubaya, what we're trying to say is, yes, good vocabulary that allows you to use alternative words, but also good reading skills that allows you to understand the gist of what you're paraphrasing so that it is preserved when you paraphrase it. Yeah? Okay. While we wait for more questions, Raphael, I wanted to ask you about something that can be quite controversial. There's there's a lot of a lot of different notions around mock tests, and some feel quite strongly about this. So can you talk about like the effectiveness of mock tests and the effectiveness of using them in a classroom environment, and also what sort of exam practice do our students get on our courses?
I think I'll have to answer it in two parts. I mean, there are two aspects to this question. First of all, we can't deny that like mock tests are actually a great way to practice, yeah, for any exam. However, how effective is it to use the class time for that? I mean, this is something that you can do on your own at home. So in the class, I think our approach is to, I mean, we try to provide things that you can't do without the help of a teacher. So yeah, mock tests are great, but I don't think it's worth using the class time for that. And there are a lot of resources available online from where you can actually get these practice materials and do it at home. One thing that we do in our class, of course, we look at the skills, specific skills, and we do some practice around them. And we also provide additional links, like self-study links, because we want to create this learner autonomy. We want learners to take charge of their own learning. And once you do that, and once you start to sort of enjoy learning, and you get to learn so much more. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what
And
we
we do have our resources, like we do have Road to IELTS for examinees,
Yeah, we
which
do
is
have
a
a
free
lot of our own
preparation,
apps. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Preparation app. So definitely they can use it. And
And
I think
and
it's a
also
brilliant way.
we've got the Take IELTS app for your
Yeah.
phone, that has full-length mock exams, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And also, let's not forget, that our courses come with its own learning app, and there's so much reading and listening practice that's available on our learning app that comes with myClass IELTS. That I think that the need for additional practice material on the course, at least in the areas of reading and listening, sort of becomes a moot point, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess we have another question.
Yeah, we've got another question from Mehdi Hassan, and it's the questions around effective reading materials you'd suggest. I'm not sure what kind of reading materials, so let's try to answer generally. Raphael, going back to you, what would so generally speaking, what sort of are effective reading materials for an IELTS candidate, prospective IELTS candidate?
Right. If you're looking at, like, I mean, we've got two different types of tests. We've got general training and academic training as well, right? With the general training, obviously, some of the sections of the reading test, they actually focus on whether you're able to cope with the real life situation, whether you're able to read and add and understand what it's about. So, I mean, these are some of the real life materials that you can have access to and can read them, but obviously they're not fun to read. So as I said before, I mean, get into the habit of reading, read anything that you enjoy so that you can continue reading every day. And obviously, with that process, you will be learning new words, and which will in turn help you with your reading and also with your writing and speaking as well. So all the skills, it will help you with all the skills, really. Yeah. I mean, I would suggest read anything that you enjoy reading. Yeah.
The next question is from Farheen Nisha. I'm not sure, Aisha, you've seen this already. This is a question around using sort of more academic and less common vocabulary during IELTS speaking. What are your thoughts around that, Aisha?
What I think is that whatever word we use, they have to be appropriate in the context. Isn't it? Like, if the conversation is about, like, traveling, like maybe to which places you want to like to travel. So it's important that even if we are using a heavy word, we need to identify that does it fit in that conversation, or does it fit in that answer? If it does not, out of nowhere, if we add one heavy word and then it adds nothing to that, then I don't think that it's going to. If we talk about band score, would you like to say that, Imran Bhai? Like, I don't think that's going to contribute to band score.
No, it isn't. Like, I think you've answered that already, haven't you, Aisha? Because again, if it doesn't improve the quality of the conversation, then it's not going to improve the band score. So, I think what you said was very clear, that all words, not only the very academic, uncommon words, but all words, as long as they're appropriate, they're called for, that's when we use them. Otherwise, they're not helping, rather they're harming. Exactly. Thank you. I mean, and that's nicely said.
I'd just like to add to that point, because it's very important that Aisha mentioned about the how appropriate the word is, and that's why if you read and then try to learn words from your reading, you would know how that word was used in a particular context, and that actually helps you to remember as well. So I think that's very important.
We keep going back to reading, don't we?
Because reading is such a it's such a way that you get to know, you get to see so many words in the real use, isn't it?
Exactly.
That's the way, basically, how to learn words, not to memorize.
I guess I can contribute a little bit quickly, answering a couple of questions here. One question is about someone's 21 years old. Yes, if you're 17 or older, you can take the IELTS exam. How important is accent in getting a high score? Well, there is no criteria for assessing accent. I guess the only way accent becomes important is, in a more like counterproductive way, as in whether your own native accent is making your pronunciation difficult to understand. As long as your own native accent is not a problem, then I don't think there is, you don't really need to worry about accent anymore, as in tonal differences, regional variations in pronunciation. As long as your pronunciation conforms to most sort of conventional, like native speaker conventions of pronunciation, it's fine. It just has to be clear, understandable, and it's fine. Okay.
I get that
And
question a lot. Like, should I use British accent or American
Yeah.
accent or Australian one? So
Yeah.
accent is not the criteria. It's not in the criteria at all.
Yeah. There's so many Englishes around the world now, isn't it? Okay.
Right.
So I think we've come to the end of this conversation. Yeah. So I just wanted to remind everyone that you know, the online IELTS courses we've got, the myClass IELTS, is really wonderful, and I think that they're priced in a way so that it really allows you to sort of try it out as well. And again, because you have complete freedom on you know, what lessons you choose, so I think, you know, it's a very safe product for you to try out. Sign on, come on board, and choose a few lessons, and I'm sure you'll like what you see. And also, I hope that what we talked about in this conversation, you found it helpful. Sorry if we weren't able to give you any magic solutions. Unfortunately, we aren't magicians. I don't think there are any magicians as far as language learning is concerned. We wanted to be helpful, and we think that we hope that you found it useful. Okay, that's it from me. Thank you very much. Do you all want to say goodbye as well, guys?
Yeah.
All right.
Of course.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Take care.
Okay. Yeah, bye. Thank you. Bye.